Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
I'm just going to take 30 seconds to see everyone because it's so wonderful. I was just saying to Rav Claudia the other day, I haven't seen so-and-so in so long. And I was like, but I'll see them on Shabbos because it's Rosh Hashanah and everyone shows up for Rosh Hashanah. So it's so wonderful to see all of you. So Torah is such a magical book. There is no way that we can mine the depths because we cannot even fully grasp all of the messages and truths that are hidden in the stories until we've lived enough life that those messages can reveal themselves to us. For those who don't know, I'm in the process of getting a divorce. And there are some traditions that believe that one should stay at all costs and that one should find a way to make it work. But in Judaism, at least the version of Judaism that we practice here at TBZ, divorce is a mitzvah. It can cause more harm to stay when separation would be best. And luckily, I've had wonderful models for divorce and co-parenting and a tremendously supportive community. So I was not afraid of this mitzvah. The root of the Hebrew word for divorce is garesh, gimel resh shin, which means to drive out. And in our parsha, we see such a driving out done by Sarah and Avraham of Hagar, who was made a wife to Avraham. Hagar, unfortunately, did not have the same role models or supportive community around her. She was far away from home. This is the first such driving out, such divorce that we encounter in the Torah. At that time, a woman needed to be in a man's household, cared for, because she had no rights of her own. She was considered property. And we see that throughout Hagar's story, especially because she was not just a woman, she was also enslaved. In chapter 16, it says that Sarai treated Hagar harshly, which made her flee. Now, that Hagar chose to leave the protection of Abraham's household to brave an unknown wilderness rather than stay speaks to the level of harassment that she endured. Scholars have noted that Hagar herself is a portrait of domestic violence. She's a silent victim in this story. No one asks her if she wants to go with Abraham and Sarah. Sarah doesn't consult her before giving her to Abraham to conceive. Did Abraham check for consent? And here in our parsha, no one consults her before casting her out. Her voice is never heard in this story about her. Even in speaking about her, she seems invisible. Sarah's command to cast out Hagar and Ishmael bothered Abraham on account of Ishmael being his son. As it says, "Vayera hadavar me'od be'enei Avraham al odot beno," because of his son, not because of Hagar, this other human being. But God comes to include Hagar to bring her injustice back into Abraham's mind. In the next verse, saying, "Vayomer Elohim el Avraham el yera be'einecha al hana'ar." Don't let it bother you. Don't be bothered on the account of your son, ve'al amatecha, and that's your servant woman. Remember her, who's going out with him? Still, Hagar is invisible and silent. She only speaks when she's alone and to God. And I always wonder why we read this on Rosh Hashanah. And as I've said before, no one asked me what we should read on Rosh Hashanah. I would have chosen to read the Genesis account of creation, but we're going with 2,000 years of tradition, so whatever. But in thinking about the Haftarah, also, of Hannah, we see a connection between these two women, between Hannah and Hagar. Both were harassed by the other women in their household, and both called out to God earnestly, in truth. And as we know, and we sang last year, Karov Adonai l'chol korav, l'chol asher yikra'uhu ve'emet, as we say from Ashrei, that God is close to all of those who call out from a place of truth, from a place of their truth. And we say, Baruch Dayan ha'emet, blessed is the true judge. That's what we say when we hear bad news. But this is true at all times, that God is a God of truth and shows up for the truth. Hagar was a righteous woman in a terrible situation, and God saw her, and God saw Hannah. Hagar called God El Roi. God sees me. El Roi. And sometimes that's all we have. The comfort that when no one else sees us, no one sees the situations that we're in, no one hears our truth or the truth of the situations in which we find ourselves. El Roi, God sees me. And we say, Baruch Dayan ha'emet, blessed is God who shows up for truth. So may all those who dwell in the darkness and shadows be seen and feel seen, and may God answer their calls and bring them justice.